Shanghai GDG is a very interesting developer community.
I'm glad somebody has asked this question.
This is where the magic happens.
This is primarily a question and answer show. So if any of you out there would like to ask questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny Hermes with the Commerce team here in Google Developer Relations. I'm a developer programs engineer. I'm missing my teammate Amanda this week, but I wanted to talk to you guys about a new feature we just launched called clicks data for paid clicks. So as you can see on my screen here, in the documentation for accessing product data, we have in the performance block a list of data points, SC data point attributes. And in these attributes, you actually get back a date and clicks, and that's something that you had already gotten, but in addition, you also get paid underscore clicks. So the data point attribute has 3 XML attributes, date, clicks, and paid clicks, and that actually tells you on that given date the number of non-paid and the number of paid clicks you had. And to request this, you can see the URI content.googleapis.com/content/v1, then your merchant center ID, then /items/products/schema, and then from there you can append the query parameters you like. So performance.start is the query parameter that tells you the first date for performance data, and performance.end is telling you the second date. Now, we'll see in a bit how to actually use the PHP client library to get this data. We talked about Python and .NET the last time we met, so I figured we'd change it up a bit. We're actually going to run the PHP in the PHP interpreter, which should be nice to see. But before we do that, let's actually head over to the interactive demo tool to have that just abstract away everything for us, and we can just go ahead and click. So let me increase the size a little bit. So I'm already signed in here with my account, and I have my merchant ID here, 109-62361. And so in order to perform the request I want, I'm simply going to go to the Get panel within the Items panel, the Get subpanel that is, and I'll check the Performance box. And by doing that, it's going to include 2012-08-9, or August 9th of this year, as the start date, and 2012-08-16 as the end date. So what I'm going to be doing is asking for all my products. As far as I know, I have 2 products in this account, and I'm asking for the performance data in this given range. Now, I'll tell you, you'll be a bit disappointed. I have no clicks as far as I know. So we'll see though. But we're really just looking to see how the attributes are used and how they are returned in the request. So before I submit execute, notice the URI is again constructed in the exact same fashion as we saw, with a little bit of a line spillover there to the second half. Okay, so let's execute it. So the request gets sent, and now it has come back. So the response is a 200. We see here there were 25 items per page, and the actual number returned is just going to be 2. In this first item, SKU 124, I do indeed have this performance block here, and in it I have 8 data points, and that is the 8 data points for the days from August 9th to August 16th. And you see here, each data point has clicks equals 0 and paid clicks equals 0. Now, before I move on to PHP, I'll submit one other request, and this is to give some context for something I'll be talking about a bit later. But you can also submit the same request using the same query parameters, but for a specific item. So rather than just querying your entire inventory, asking for performance and getting back performance for, we saw one item, but there's actually a second item in this response as well. But you can target performance for specific items, okay? So here I've actually hard-coded in the SKU, the actual product ID, online, :EN for English, :US for the country, and then :SKU 123 for the SKU of the product. And I can execute this request, and rather than getting a feed of products back with this performance data, I will get an individual product. So entry equals, and again, I have this performance block with the 8 data points in it for that particular item. So let's actually write some code to access this data. How can we do it? So let me switch to terminal and let's go full screen on this. Not sure what the adjustment is. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So for security reasons, I've already loaded a token in. I didn't want to actually go through the whole process of putting in my my password, etc. But so once we already have the token, it's in the variable token. We're going to actually import the library. So I'm in a folder that has the PHP library in it, and the PHP library is just called gshoppingcontent.php. So we require that once. Now, using that, the GSC_client class is defined. So we're going to get our own client for making requests from an instance of this class. So we'll just say client equals new GSC_client. So because we're instantiating a new object, and we instantiate it with the ID for my account. So 109.62.361, as we saw. Okay. Now, again, since I already have a token, rather than going through auth, I'm just going to explicitly set the token on the client using the setToken method. Okay. So now we have a client that is authenticated and ready to make requests. So we want to actually do a GET request for the items in my account. So we need a few attributes to make this request. So first we need max results. Now max results, we know we have 2 items, so we'll just say max results equals 2. In addition, we actually need a start token. Since we're not going to use any particular start token, we just need it null. But as we'll see, the signature for the get products method on the client object actually needs a start token argument as into the function signature. And this is sort of an artifact of trying to keep libraries in sync between Python and PHP. Python has this concept of keyword arguments, but PHP doesn't. So we have to have a null argument kind of in the middle, but that's life, right? So of course, after we have max results and a start token, we'll have our performance start, which was 2012-08-09, August 9th, and our performance end, virtually the same thing, but 2012-08-16. These are both strings, okay? So now, to get a feed of products back, as we saw in the actual demo tool, I'm going to get the variable product feed, and I'll just call the get product method on the client, and I'm going to pass in the 4 variables that we just defined. So first max results, then start token, then performance start, then performance end. Okay? So this is actually making a request, sending it off to the API, and giving us back the results in the product feed. Okay? Great. So now we actually want to examine the products and get back the specific attributes, particularly the data points within that object, so we can actually use them and inspect them and maybe change some campaigns, change the product description, etc. Just react based on the actual traffic that the product is getting based on the performance data. Okay? So I'm just going to grab the first guy. So from the product feed, I'll call the method get products. Now this is a method on the feed itself that actually will return an object, a list of the products contained in the feed. So it's an array object, and I'm just going to get the first element in that list at the 0 index. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. Product feed, get products. There's a syntax error somewhere, though. I'm not sure where it is. Okay. All right, not sure where that syntax error was, but it's gone away. Cool. So, sorry about that. So I have now I have the product from the feed from the very first product contained in the list, right? So to see which product that is, let's echo the title of the product back to the terminal. So on the product, I'm going to call the getTitle method, and I'll echo that along with a new line so we don't have spillover. So this product is called Beep, and I had two products, as you may have seen in the drop down. One was a widget, and the other one was called Beep. So on Beep, we actually want to get the data points. So in the variable data points, we'll call the get data points getter from the product object. Okay? So get data points will return a list, hopefully, of the 8 data points that we are expecting to get. And it's a special kind of list. It's a DOM node list, and this is a native PHP data type. So the way we're retrieving them is actually a bit different than just using square brackets and the index. We're actually going to have to use the item getter on the DOM node list. So now we have data points. Just to verify what data points is, a DOM node list, I'm going to print it. There you see, DOM node list object. Okay. So how many data points do we have before we actually get in and inspect some of them? So data points length will tell us the number of data points that we've received, and we expect to have received 8. So there you have it. Data points length has 8 items. So let's get the first one. Okay. So set the variable data point equal to the data point at index 0. So to retrieve that, we just say data point equals data points, and then we call the item method on data points and pass in the index we want. In this case, like I said, 0. So this data point is now a separate kind of DOM element, and this is an element that we can pass to our product, and our product has some special getters: get data point clicks, get data point paid clicks, and get data point date, that we can actually use to inspect the data point itself, this data point relative to that product. Remember, we actually retrieve data points from the product itself. So to find the actual date of this data point, let's call product get data point date, and we'll pass in the data point, and hopefully it'll echo back the date for that first data point. So the first data point is the first date that we expect, August 9th, okay? Now, to get the clicks back, not the paid clicks, but clicks, we changed the date in that method called get data point date to just clicks. So again, we're going to echo product get data point clicks, and we're going to pass in the data point. Sorry, it's boring. My product has 0 clicks. Nobody clicked on that product. And similarly, instead of clicks, we will add in the keyword paid in that method and call the product get data point paid clicks method. And we'll again see 0. So this is pretty simple. We already have support for this in Python, .NET, and of course PHP, as you just saw. If you'd like to use this data within your production systems, it's ready to go right now. So with that, I'm going to return to the moderator queue. Let me pull this up for everyone to see. Actually, I don't know the link to it off the top of my head. So the first question on the moderator queue is, let me get these pulled up. Sorry, one second. Okay, so from Andrew in Sunnyvale, it appears that we can get performance data on individual products and also on the account as a whole. Is there a way to get data on many products at once without sending many individual requests? Now, this question is sort of interpreted in a few different ways. So I'll answer the many different interpretations. So the first interpretation that I initially thought this was asking was, can we get more than 250 items with just performance data and nothing else? So currently, no. The only way to get performance data is with the entire payload of the products themselves. And this is something we're thinking about changing or implementing as a feature. So if people are interested in getting just performance data without the rest of the payload, please let us know. Vote it up on our Shopping APIs issue list. We're happy to take that into consideration when we're developing new features. The second meaning of this, which is probably more accurate to what he was asking, is rather than just doing a blind get and saying, give me 250 results, can we specify which products we're looking for performance data for? And the answer to that is yes. Luckily, this is implemented already. As I found when I was reviewing this moderator queue, this isn't really documented very well, and I'm going to work to fix that. But the GData protocol, the underlying protocol that makes this API work, actually has a way to submit queries within batches. So we're just used to submitting inserts, updates, and deletes within our batches, but we can also submit queries. And to submit a query, just like a delete, is you just have an entry with an ID and then the batch operation. And that's it when you submit a delete. By the same token, if you want to submit a query, all you need is the ID of the product, so content.google APIs, etc., /v1 / your merchant ID, and ending in the product ID. That's the only ID you would need. It's equivalent to the rel equals edit link when you're normally dealing with products. And then you just submit batch operation type equals query. So it's just like that, but rather than type equals delete for deletes, it's type equals query. And in order to get the performance data, the batch API URI actually will take the same performance.start and performance.end query parameters. So you're actually able to, with those query parameters, get the same data you'd get via the GET request that you can get through the batch URI. So the next question, also from Andrew in Sunnyvale, says, are there plans to expose views or paid views attribute? And Andrew goes on to say, it'd be helpful in distinguishing between good products with bad metadata and bad products with good metadata that have the same number of clicks. Now, this is something, views or impressions is something that we've had requested a lot, and it's something we're constantly trying to figure out the best way to surface them. So right now, I have nothing to announce and nothing to say definitively whether yes or no they will be exposed, but it's something we're always considering. So thanks for bringing it up, Andrew. And again, if people really are wanting this, please go to our shopping issues list and vote this up, or come to the forum and give us your opinions. We'd love to hear them. And the final question is from Strack.js, John Strachan, near London. And it asks, is there a batch option for performance data? Now, I've just answered this question inadvertently by answering Andrew's question. So if you want to get performance data in batch, you can just use the same query parameters like I mentioned. And I'll work on documenting this. And once I do have the documentation for it complete, I'll point everyone to where it's been documented, and I'll make a post about it on our forum. So if we have no more questions in our moderator queue, I'm going to end. So I'll see everybody 2 weeks from today, August 30th. And thanks for submitting your questions, and I hope the new paid clicks attribute is helpful to you. Have a nice day.